Welcome to Slow and Steady, the podcast where you get to follow along as we build products in public. Each week, we'll give you an honest peek into our lives as we share our struggles, our wins, and everything in between. I'm Benedikt, and I'm feeling sweaty.
And I'm Benedicte. Today is July 24th. This is episode number 205, and I'm feeling thankful.
Oh, that's a much better feeling.
I mean, it's an actual feeling. Sweaty is not a feeling. It's not in our feeling
Is
wheels.
it not? I mean,
I don't
it
think
does
is.
not. It does not feel nice. It does not feel nice.
So you are part of the heat wave, then, I imagine.
Yeah. I mean, admittedly, it's a little bit better today, but it has not been fun over the last couple of days. And the thing is, like, the days where it's not super hot, then it's humid.
Yeah.
And it's basically it's always not nice.
I can kind of imagine because we've been on the outskirts of it. So in Scandinavia, it's just been, oh my God, we have lovely summer nights. That I'm also thankful for in my thankfulness era. But also then we've had these like tropical storms that we haven't seen before. So we've gotten both sides as well. But for us, like the very warm is still just like a nice summer. It doesn't.
Still quite nice, yeah.
I think we've had like 27 Celsius at the most, and then we're all complaining. This is the Norwegian summer for you. It's like, oh my God, it's too warm. It's too cold. It's too rainy. It's like can never be.
It's not like that, but that's the same for everyone. Just the adjectives change a little. It's too hot. Yeah. It's too humid. But it's too rainy.
But I do feel, especially for those like really, really nice summer nights. One night we were like, we're not supposed to be sitting outside. We were like, okay, we should take a early night, and we just like we can't. Like this might not happen again this summer. And then it happened again the next day, and we were like, but we don't have time for this. Like
what do we do?
And we were like sitting there on the deck, and the kids were like playing in their boat. And it was like 8 or 9 o'clock, and we were like talking about maybe we need to reel this in. Like they have to go to bed because they had a full day, and then we're like, but we can't. Like this is what summer memories are made of. That you just like, they drive around in their little boat for. I think they ended up being like midnight before we kind of reeled them in and everybody went to bed. And since it was still early summer, it was still light. Like now it's getting darker, but it was still, so it was just like that, like magical, perfect, where you just can see the kids and you're like, this is going to be one of those summer memories. We just can't kind of cut into that. And then we paid the day after, obviously, because everybody was super tired, but it was worth it.
Yeah, you have to do it at least once, I guess.
Yeah. So we're thankful for this crazy weather, but I feel you. I do not do heat well.
Yeah, me neither. And it's like the annoying part is like it doesn't cool down enough at night to actually sleep well. Like I'm sleeping without a blanket even, and I'm still sweating. That's not nice.
Oh no. But have you got anything done, or have you just been in a state of, I don't know, what heat fever?
No, it's okay. I can get stuff done. And actually feeling quite positive about the progress so far. Like as I mentioned, I had a little bit of a slow period a couple of weeks ago, but it's fine. Like we're making progress on the product. We finished the exports that I talked about, like self-service exports for like your user data and company data and stuff like that. That's done. We already rolled it out to half of the customer base, I think. I don't think most of them have used it, but a couple of people have used it and haven't had any complaints.
So you know how to roll out partially across your user base.
Yeah, thanks to Flipper. So yeah, we're doing this, and like the very first person that used, or actually the second person that used it, found a bug, which was kind of nice. But we were able to fix that and also do some other improvements. And now we haven't had any more complaints, and we had like 20 exports or so in the last couple of weeks. And yeah, we're planning to just roll it out for everyone this week, next week, something like that. So that's been nice. In the process, we also improved how we do imports, and we have like a system for batch processing in general, like do like exports everyone, do imports everyone, and in theory we could add more stuff like update every field, like update a field on all users and stuff like that. And the architecture for that is a lot better now. It's a lot. I feel like it's probably my third attempt at this. Like I had a first version that was sort of working. I had a second version that was also sort of working, but was way too complicated. And now the third version is still working, but it's a lot simpler. That's the type of code I like. So yeah, feeling pretty good about that. Other than that, we're working on a couple small features. For example, this week and a little bit of last week, we were working on two-factor authentication, because it's been coming up, and I think it's a reasonable feature request. It just hasn't been a priority so far.
We're getting it as well. Like it's one of the Jeff showed us on Monday in the team meeting. He like every time somebody requests it, he just does a +1 on the Trello card because we use Trello, and it's just like infinite scroll. It's like okay, we're gonna do it. We're gonna do it.
Something like that. Yeah, I mean it's not that many people. Honestly, I think in total we have like 3, 4, 5 requests, but for the most part, I agree that it's a good like that we should do this, and so therefore we're doing it. The export feature was the feature that had all the +1s. Like we also track feature requests in Notion, and yeah, we had a lot of requests for that. So I'm glad it's out there, and we're just enabling for people if they ask for it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what we're currently working on.
Two-factor authentication. What is your plan? What are you going to be using? Are you going to go for like
no, we just added it. We added timed one-time passwords or time-based one-time passwords and recovery codes.
Okay.
We just built it ourselves. Wasn't too hard.
Yeah.
Took like backend took half a day, I guess. And currently we're building front end. And the one thing we're struggling with a little bit is on the sign in, because our authentication or like all of the auth stuff in the thing, like in the app, is built on top of OAuth, and OAuth by itself doesn't really have an idea about multi-factor authentication. So now the challenge we're currently facing is like, how do we cram this into this other thing without making a huge mess? We have a prototype working that's just bolted on, but we also have ideas for how we can improve this potentially. So that's what we're currently doing. What are you planning to use for Outsider?
I think on Monday it was just like we're gonna have to do this. This is now like one of the top priorities, and we haven't gotten further. So I just wanted to piggyback off of your architectural solution.
Yeah, I mean, under the hood is pretty simple. As I said, like we have users, and users now have multiple authentication factors, and one of them is the recovery codes, and the other one is OTP, time based. But in theory, we could like SMS or pass keys or whatever.
Because now you send them via email.
No, you get a secret for your Authenticator app.
Yes,
in the beginning when you set it up.
Yeah.
Yeah. And but in theory, like because we have this like new model type of authentication factor, we can in theory add whatever in the future. But we decided to keep it simple, to not overdo it in the first run. The initial plan was to just do Authenticator apps, and then recovery codes were easy enough to do as well. So those are the two, and we're deliberately stopping at those two for now.
Yeah, that was kind of the gist that one of the guys said in the meeting. Like, we'll need some kind of recovery codes, and also a way to kind of I think they worked on products before where people keep locking themselves out, like they lose access to their authenticator app, and so they were like, we also need kind of like a support plan, so we kind of know what to answer in support and stuff when people inevitably lose access to their authenticator app, and also like have some proper help articles around the whole recovery code and that kind of stuff. Because for us, we are very familiar with this, as users.
Yeah.
We use this for like most of our tools as developers. Like most of the tools, do stuff like this, and people are getting more used to it at work, I guess. With like, at least when I worked in bank, we had like Microsoft had its own like system for two-factor authentication. But I think a lot of users who they ask for it, and then they don't always realize the implications like down the road for like they've heard like, oh, that's more secure, we need it, and that is true, and then you implement it, and then they're like, I can't access my account anymore, and it's like, yeah, well, that's because it's now more secure. So that's true. Like it's it's hard to get the one without the other.
Yeah, that's the problem with security most of the time, is that it's not, if it's more secure, it's not necessarily easier or like more convenient and stuff like that.
No, it's usually less convenient. And I have a funny story on this. So this, during the summer, my cabin office days, there was like no issues with where I'm now, responsible for the systems operating. But then like a fairly simple request came in that we needed to update the copy for some of the emails we send out. So we do this batch booking process where everybody that has a bike gets called into a fall service, and we needed, or summer service, and we needed to update that copy. And I was like, yeah, sure. And, I'll just go into SendGrid and do that. Turns out that, and I had like some inkling that like we had an issue getting me access to SendGrid, because the guy who set it up, who's quit, is the admin, and nobody can then add extra people. But we solved that by the last developer turning his account into what we just call like a TechWe account and a password. And he put that into one password so I could log in with those credentials. But then there was two-factor authentication, which was sending an SMS to the last dev who was now on summer vacation. I managed to get in contact with him, and he got the SMS. He forwarded the SMS to me. I log in. And then I go to the two-factor authentication kind of settings, and it was like, do you want to remove two-factor authentication? I was like, yes, I do. Because then, these are our email templates. It's going to be fine. Like this is not like one of our threat level issues, And then, and then I removed it. And then I told the last dev, I was like, okay, so I've removed it. So I'm fine now. And then I kind of had to do something else. I went back in to actually do the update. I log in with my credentials, and then they're like, well, you can't get any further without adding two-factor authentication.
Yeah.
So then I had to add back two-factor authentication that I think involved I think then maybe it wasn't like his, I don't know, remember exactly, but I was like, no. And then I had to add that back in, and now it's my phone number that is connected to this tech @we type email.
Right.
But this has been like an issue. This is like it's an issue for everyone, but it's especially an issue in like the no code world, because this hasn't only been an issue for like SendGrid. It's like all across the board. You need to have a personal account, and then most of these systems now don't have kind of system API keys. All API keys have to be personal. So the last dev guy, he'd created API keys. So if we remove his user, all systems go down, because none of the API keys are then valid anymore, because they have to be then created for me or for somebody else and then added back in, because they're all personal API keys instead of kind of system-wide API keys, or I don't know, accounts.
Right.
Which I find a little weird, because, if I'm going to use Airbase, or it's Airtable, which is what we use, there's going to be a lot of integrations that are like accounts on the account level, but you're not allowed to use account credentials anymore. So we've solved this then by adding this like tech user that then holds the credentials, which is basically, they made it more secure. We make it less secure by, or like we go back to, but they can then check off, all credentials are personal, but I managed to get into SendGrid, managed to update this email, but all of this was happening while Lillian was at this like race at their cabin. They have this like full day race where they take little boats around the peninsula, is that the word? Where anyway, and do like tasks. But because there was a warning for kuling, is the Norwegian word, which is like really strong wind, but not like storm, but like almost. And 40 to 60 milliliters of rain that day, they was like, we need to put everything on land. We can't have 12-year-olds being captains in this weather. And then I got stuck in this rain. So I was like soaking. I was like wet all the way into my skin. So I had, and then this like, this thing came through, like, we need to fix this now because we need to send these batch bookings. So I then had to text Ola, who then had to put on all his rain clothes, change of clothes, and my laptop in a waterproof bag, get it over to the harbor so that I could do this work before I was going to drive and pick up somebody else. And then I just felt like this is like cabin, office, startup life, like just all in one. Made it happen. I just felt alive. I thrive on chaos sometimes.
Yeah, it's a good story, of course. I mean,
but the thing is, like, I don't enjoy chaos that I have created, but like this wasn't of my doing. Like all of these things, like, and then you have to like fix it, and you kind of go into that, like, you just have to like figure out how to make this happen. I really like, I get very energized from those kinds of situations. But if it was my kind of doing, then I would just have been annoyed. But this wasn't kind of, it was a thing we needed to solve, and it needed to be solved that day. And it was raining, and there was like boats, and there was like everything was happening at once. But got it done, which was the point of the story.
How important were those emails, though? Probably could have waited a day.
They probably could have waited a day. But the thing was that somebody else was going on vacation, and also like that is kind of a little bit of the deal that I have to like, I promise I'll try to fix things within like 48 hours. I could have waited a day. But then after fixing this, he still couldn't send out the emails because the batch booking was broken. So the next day, I had to figure out why the batch booking was broken. It was like these weird little bugs that was showing up that he was like, I don't think these are connected, but maybe they are connected. And it turned out they were connected. And that was because at some point, somebody has set the max number of records setting to 30. So any call to Airtable will only return 30 records. So somebody made like a like a wrapper method. And in that wrapper method, the default is set to 30, while the API default is 100. So this took me a while to figure out, because I was like, well, it says in the API documentation that it should give you a page size of 100 records. And we have 57, but it's not giving me 57. It's always giving me 30. And then I was like, well, this is a wrapper. This is not, this is and then I went into the wrapper function. And I was like, oh, max records 30. Like, no wonder we're getting 30 in here. But I don't know if something it's dependent on that. So I only then overrode it in that one function. And then we were getting more than 30. And now the batch booking is working.
Until you get more than 100.
Yes. But it wasn't for
API pagination. Yeah.
But the batch, it wasn't for this wasn't for how many, like, for the number of people that were going to be batch booked. These were for date configurations. So you can say like what dates are open, and we only do 4 months at a time, and you don't necessarily do a configuration for every day. So I was like, okay, now I know it's 100. So like if this pops up again, but that is less, like I feel like that is less of an issue because we already have 300 customers. So obviously that has to be paginated, and that was already paginated like in the code. But yeah, so it was a good thing I actually did that day, because then we had that issue and then we finally made it like work. So that was started on Wednesday and we got all the things fixed by Friday, and now they can, they could start calling, booking people in, because otherwise that would have been pushed another couple of weeks, and then we're into the fall and like there's a follow-up repercussions onto that. Yeah. So yeah, that was a long story.
Good one though. That was painted some nice pictures in my mind.
Yeah. And while I was doing the latest updates on that Friday, the weather was beautiful. I was sitting on the deck outside, just like enjoying. So we've had all kinds of weather, from like one day where like soaking into everything, and then to the next day where it's like beautiful and you can just like sit outside the whole day. And I just love working outside like that. It just, I don't know, I've said it before, still feels like a vacation when you can sit on a deck and like watch the ocean and do a little bit of coding. Like it's, anyway.
Nice. I don't have anything to add to that.
You don't have anything to add to that. Well, I have something to add to that.
What do you have to add to that?
Well, I was sitting on the deck that I personally power washed. So that has been my therapy. We talked last time about if there will be a breakdown. I don't feel like my scheduled breakdown actually became like a full-blown breakdown, but I did power wash somewhere in between 150 and 200 square meter of wooden deck. And it's some of the most meditative thing I think I've ever done. And it was like 5 to 10 years overdue. So you could see the immediate results. Like it was amazing. You just clean and you could see the results. It was just so immediate. And I would just go and like power wash a couple of hours, I guess almost every day, and just like, think through things and power wash at the same time. It was amazing.
That sounds, I love work like that where you actually see your progress.
I think that's why a lot of developers end up like starting to do like carpentry or cooking or, sourdough bread, or like they get these like very, very hands-on type hobbies, because the work we do, even when it's like immediate solutions, like what I just talked through, it's still not like visible in the same way, or like it doesn't have the same like tactile feedback where like, I did this, and also I did this and it's done for, and it doesn't have to be done until like 2 to 3 years down the road. It's like, it's not like somebody tomorrow, it's not suddenly going to have algae on it again. Like it's not, nothing is going to come and like just like happen to break the deck. Well, ice could, but not like the actual cleaning of it. So that was beautiful.
Right.
And the whole, like, I just also a lot of gratitude and thankfulness by like looking like that I have this place and have the place I have in Oslo, and just like, after all the problems with my mother and stuff, like at the end of it, like, oh my God, I am so lucky and so privileged, and I'm going to enjoy that more now that I can relax and enjoy it.
Yeah, that's the spirit.
And now that the deck is
it's
clean.
It's a good reminder. And now that the deck is clean, you can actually enjoy it.
I can actually sit on the deck and actually enjoy it. Not that there's not a million other things that needs to be done, but I mean, as long as it's standing, it's fine. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
Nothing more. We're so like quick. I've done more. Do you want to hear more about what I've been doing?
Of course. Lay it on me.
So I'm working on secret framer stuff without Sarah. So that's a very short update. Ooh. But it's a lot of fun, especially since I get to use all of my React skills, which feels good to actually, again, use the skills that you've acquired and create something with it. So that's been a lot of fun. And I will obviously share when it's not secret anymore. And then a fun little fact is that we did, or Krista, who helps us with video clips, did a little clip where I am talking about how Suega, the coffee brand that we like, should sponsor our streams, because I often drink coffee from the coffee cup, and on the bottom of the coffee cup that is shown to the camera all the time, I was like, this is a perfect place for a logo. Somebody should sponsor us. And Ula said, well, maybe Suega could sponsor us, our coffee, the coffee brand we like. And that got picked up on Instagram for some reason. Like, a lot of people saw it. So Suega, Sweden, I think, or Suega International. Anyway, they saw it and they were like, we'll send you some free packets of coffee.
Nice.
So I feel like that's like one step closer to being a full-blown influencer.
Did they also send you a sticker to put in a cup?
I don't think they actually like really understood the clip.
Okay. They just appreciated that you mentioned them, I guess.
I think so. And also, like, the tagline was like, should Suega sponsor us? But that was fun. And it was also fun because a lot of our friends that know we are Suega fans, they were like having fun in the comments about like the different flavors and stuff like that. So it became like just this fun little thing. And yeah, and Krista, who helps us do this, has been like a true lifesaver this summer, because they've been just publishing these clips with almost no input, and also been publishing the Data in the Wild podcast episodes. And some of them have been doing really well. And I just told Krista, let's just like do it again. Like, just start at the top and share clips again, because I felt like the traction came in like the 6th or 7th episode. And people started sharing, or at least one person, Steven, he was like, oh, this is a gem of a podcast. People should listen to it. And then it was only 2 more episodes, but I'm like, who cares? We're just like, this is evergreen content. So we can just start at episode 1 again and start sharing clips and sharing the links to the episodes, and then just like keep that going. Especially when I don't have to spend a lot of time doing that. Like, it kind of just, for me, It just happens like magically.
It's a good reminder to just keep recycling the content that you have. Like, 2nd time, 3rd time, 4th time, it doesn't, like, just keep going.
But I think having help to do that makes a lot of sense, because personally, I get tired of it. Watching myself and watching like the same kind of interview again and again. But for somebody that does that part as a job, like, it's a different situation.
Yeah.
Their goal is to do this and to repurpose, while my joy comes from the creation of it, not the recycling of it.
Right. And your emotional connection to that clip or that interview is way closer than to someone else who is like just sharing it without actually caring that much about the content. So yeah, I can totally see this. This reminds me of something that Michael, who just left the customer success role at Userlist, he used to say, because I always told him that I admire how calm he can stay with certain customers and certain support requests, and he always said something like that it's a lot easier to do customer support for a product that's not your own. Because we all know that we're not our products, and like, people complaining about the product are not necessarily complaining about you. It still hurts a little, and you remember all the hard work you put into it and all the time you spend marketing it, and like all the amount and effort. So when there's a problem, it of course like affects you more than it would affect someone else who's not as invested in it as you are personally. So I'm pretty sure the same is true for just resharing content and stuff like that.
Yeah, and also especially when it's like you on your face on there, which it is with a lot of this content. Like, I can be like, oh, I should have phrased that differently, or I should have, like, you get reminded of things that which is the same as you said, with
Right.
customer support, it's like, I know that bug has been there for a year. Like, why can't I figure it out? And like, you start, there's a lot of other energy coming in, not just that you're the product, but like, of all of the history and why it's like that. And you often want to explain yourself, like we know this is a problem and we're trying to fix it and blah, blah, blah. But if you're more detached, you're like, thank you for the report. I'll put it, and then you answer the question. And I've done a lot of editing of my own things. And I feel like I've gotten to a place where when I kind of see my face on video, I usually don't go down like rabbit holes of like, why do I look like that? And why do I say like that? Why are my teeth crooked? Like those kinds of things. But especially in stressful times, like it's easier to go down that path. If if you're already feeling bad about something else, like it's easier to just like go into those kinds of things. And also you just don't see what is good and what is not because it's like your words. So it's hard sometimes to be like, that is a good clip. Because you're too close to it. And also, what you're talking about. So sometimes I feel like I've explained something properly, but I haven't because I didn't share the context. And then somebody else will probably not clip that. They will clip something with more context or like add some context to the clip or, those kinds of things. Yeah. So it's been a great find to have somebody help out with that. And
Krista's great.
Krista is great.
I can fully.
And you can clip that, Krista, and play it on repeat.
Was about to say print it, but it's an audio clip. It doesn't work.
We can make a sticker. Krista is great. As heard on Slow and Steady 205.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think that was all. I only have one last update, and that is if you are coming to Oslo, DM me because we now have an Airbnb property.
Oh, tell me more. Is it the old camper van in your backyard?
No, it is the old factory, which is basically 2/3 of our property. But it's a separate unit. It's a spacious, what did we write? Spacious studio apartment or studio space. Because there are no doors or walls, because that's not how we do it in our families. So you have to stay in like a larger space, but there is now a nice bed and we will like clean it up. We have some work to do throwing out stuff to like make even more space. But we already have 2 bookings. So they're coming in 14 days is the first booking coming. And you will be sharing the space with a cat. So you gotta like cats. Or at least not be allergic to cats.
So that then my wife's out.
Yeah, but the cat's old, so just give it a couple of years. You can come stay.
Okay, let's see. But yeah.
No, DM me. I'll send you the account, or send you the link. If you're coming to Oslo, there, listener, because we would love to host you and share a backyard with you, which is like the shared space.
Nice. That's cool.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
If it's like...
Should we wrap it up?
I was just gonna say, you said tell me more. I was just gonna say, if you're going to Oslo, DM me and then see you around the interwebs. But let's do that now.
Okay.
See you around the interwebs.
Yep. See you around the interwebs.
Bye-bye.
Bye.